Hi, this is Justin from Money Bootcamp. Today I'm answering a question from Colm and Alva de Barra. Their question is, should I buy antique furniture as an investment? So the first thing to know here is that antique furniture and any type of antiques are considered an alternative investment. So they are outside of stocks and bonds, so they're considered an alternative investment. With alternative investments, there's a few things you need to know, and we'll just look at this through the eye of antiques for today. With any alternative investments, and especially antiques, there's a bunch of risks that are specific to them that you would not see in a standard investment of stocks or bonds. So as this is a niche investment, you need to actually have some knowledge in the subject matter. You need to know about the history of antiques. You need to know a general knowledge of history. You probably should know a little bit about the antique market, or if you're just looking at antique furniture, the antique furniture market. You need to recognize that timing is going to be very important for you and how your investments pan out. Like some alternative investments, they will come under fads, and because we're looking at antique furniture, they're also going to come down to just style. So there's going to be the style of the time, and there's going to be individual style that will have a big impact on how these investments actually act and how much they return. One of the most important things to know about an alternative investment, but specifically antique furniture investing, that the market is illiquid. What this means for you is that you can't go onto a stockbroker and buy and sell it. There is no marketplace. Just imagine the likes of DoneDeal or eBay, where you can put something up and it might be fairly guaranteed to sell within a matter of days or hours, whatever it is, depending on the desire of the market to actually purchase this item. As the market is illiquid, you may have to wait long periods to find a buyer. You might have to go to auctions, you might have to talk to specific people within the industry to find someone who's interested in the market itself and find someone who's interested in this specific item that you have. Say you have an antique table, you might have to wait for a year, 2 years, maybe 20 years to be able to find a seller. If you're a passive investor and a passive seller, this may not be a problem. So if you're buying this furniture to furnish your house, so you say, okay, I'm going to buy a table and chairs for my dining room. I'm going to get some antique furniture and I'm going to use it in that time and be careful not to damage it, and upkeep it and keep it in very good condition so it's in a position to sell. But because of that, you also need to be willing to sell it, so you don't want to get emotionally attached to your table and chairs, and then when it comes the time to sell, you have a seller that you're not ready to do it. So you need to be careful. Do not get attached to your investments. There has been a trend for a long time now, a couple of decades, of antiques getting more and more valuable. This is a trend. They're trending on the up. This may not stay forever. So you need to be aware that if you are putting money into antiques in any fashion, this trend may not continue. It may come back later, but this trend might not come back for 50 years. And if that's the case, you could be holding on to these items for a long time without any return. You might have to pass them to the next generation without a return. There's also a small point that you may not have considered, which is a link to money laundering, which you may not want to be involved in. Some criminal gangs and criminals in general have been investing in antiques because of the illiquidity of the market and the difficulty to value them and using it for money laundering. So you also want to be careful if you're selling it. If you get a very good price, you may want to be careful in that you're not getting pulled into a money laundering ring. As an investing mechanism, antiques have had a bull run, which in layman terms means a great time, and have been getting priced higher and higher over the last few years. So they've had a bull run for a couple of decades now. There has been a general trend into an increase in alternative investments over the last few decades. And as some trends like modernism increase, trends push counter trends. So you have the counter trends being old-fashioned, nostalgic, and also hipster, which are pushing for more old-fashioned or antique items. Although this has been the trend for a while, this trend may not continue, which could really devalue items. So if you are spending money on antiques, you really need to be careful that you're buying low and you're buying at a good price, that you're happy spending for something you're going to use and enjoy. With antiques, as this is a physical asset, you need to make sure you upkeep it. So if you have a table and chairs that you think may be valuable in years to come, that you're not doing your ironing on it, you're not putting candles and spilling wax on it, you're not being just clumsy and slowly devaluing it by actually damaging the item itself. A really important point I want to hammer home with this is that this is not an asset class to rely on. You might have some people really in the know here who only invest in antiques and who do very, very well in it, but they will be the outliers. This is not a normal thing. This is the same way that there are people who bought property at the right time and it was very low, and then it went really high and they were able to sell and they made a big profit. And it's the same for gold and stocks and bonds and all of these things over time. But as a financial planner, I can tell you, you really don't want to make this bet and rely on this for you. If you really want to get into antiques or any other alternative investment, make sure you have the basic things right. Have a pension in place, have a decent sized pension that should cover your expenses comfortably. Have other savings, have other investments, have money aside. If you're going to have alternative investments, especially ones like antiques that are illiquid and the pricing can be very skewed and it can take a long time to find a buyer, you need to have other assets in place to provide for you. If you're interested in antiques or any other alternative investment, buy some books, watch some YouTube videos, talk to people in the area, go to some auctions or some interest groups and really learn about the area itself, so that you're not just going to fall into what seems like a great idea and then later on realize you don't know anything and you've got duped. Antiques, as well as a lot of alternative investments, are liquid. Antiques especially are a physical item, so you really need to be careful because you can't just take to the bank and exchange it for money. You can't deposit it. You need to hold it, you need to keep it. There's going to be cost to storing and maintaining it. If you keep it in your house and there's a fire or a flood, it may not even be covered by insurance that you have because it's hard to value, or the valuer doesn't actually think it's worth anything. So I know I've been doing a lot of poo-pooing here and really dragging down the idea of antiques and alternative investments, but I just want to stress the idea that it should not be the core part of your portfolio, your pension or your investments. You really should rely on the more standard asset types initially, especially pensions, as they're the safe method. They're tax-free, there's a lot of tax benefits. It's something outside your reach, so it's a great way to go. But here's some positives. Positives for antiques and alternatives in general is that they are on the up. Alternative investments and antiques especially have been on the up for decades. They're really getting more and more momentum. More people are getting interested in them, and people are really using it as a way to diversify their assets and also seek extra yield that they would not get in the standard market. Antiques have been trending positive for years, and some trends are likely to continue. Nostalgia has been on the rise for years, so as things get more modern, people are looking into the past and seeing what's something a bit older that we can lean back on. And nostalgia is really playing into this, so antiques are getting more and more valuable because of this. The markets in antiques and a lot of alternative investments are illiquid and inefficient. So if you know what you're doing, if you have an informational edge over other investors, if you know that something out there is cheap and you can buy it at a great price, you can make huge profits because you have a knowledge gap or a knowledge lead on other people. In conclusion, learn about the area first. If you have other assets like pensions, saving, investments, go for it, give it a shot. If you want to get into an area like this, start slow. Do not get carried away. Do not put more than 5-10% of your entire portfolio into it for a long time. Take it really slowly and just step by step inch your way into it. If you like this video, please like and share with anyone you think will find it helpful. And if you have any personal finance questions, please send it to us on any of our platforms and we'll try and make a video giving as much information as we can on it as soon as possible. This has been Justin from Money Bootcamp. Learn money, live better.